Bunnyhoppor coming up in this one. Huge match for Bunnyhoppor, specifically in this one. For Bozzzton, though, he is still playing for prizing in this one. Every single match has prizing on the line. So you do not want a match forfeiture just because you can't make it to playoffs at that point. That is not a good idea.
Nope. And again, just despite the prize money, there is also pride on the line for these players. And, you know, the players with a negative record don't really want to end the season with kind of an embarrassing looking number next to their name. They want to regain some respectability. They want to show that they deserve to be there for the second season as well, even though they're guaranteed to. And yeah, well, it looks like finally we've got over the line. We thank everyone for sticking with us. We'll give you all one final recap. Bunnyhoppor in line for a playoff spot, but he is vying for that spot alongside Kalento and Viper, who, if you missed our first two series, have both done their job and won that series. Bunnyhoppor now, from the other side of the same matchup we've been seeing, has got to follow suit if he's going to keep pace for a playoff spot. Indeed.
That's a good opening hand to do it with, too.
It's not bad looking.
We have seen him not prioritize Evil Miscreant in the matchup. However, this is game one. And so there's not much more of an aggressive start that he can get in that regard. Now, I'm looking at Blink Fox. I'm looking at Edwin Van Cleef. I'm looking at SI7 Agent. Are these the kind of minions that you really want in that situation? Or are you happy with the Miscreant? And I think in game one, when you have no Fairy Dragon, you have no Walk the Plank, Evil Miscreant gives you a way to access that in a pseudo way, where sometimes you'll have yourself a Discovery that can remove a Giant, and you'll have some lackeys that maybe can pressure.
Right. Bozzzton, on the other hand, going first. No playable minions. Just a Mountain Giant, Conjurer's Calling. He just kind of has a coin hand right now.
Or a please give me a Banana Buffoon or an Arcane Intellect hand.
Right. I mean, even then, that's kind of a coin hand still.
I'll take Banana Buffoon.
Sure.
Shark picked up. I feel like Shark in this matchup is useful, but not necessarily the best.
I think we'll often see players, and have seen players, prioritize Hench Clan Burglar over Spirit of the Shark in situations like will be coming up in a turn or two, where just pressure is very important. The dynamic does shift a little bit against Bozzzton, because one of the reasons we've pointed out for why that is the case is that you want to pressure on your turn 4 into their turn 5 Luna's Pocket Galaxy turn. If you don't do that, you can potentially give them too much breathing room. Of course, Bozzzton not playing that card in his deck, so he has slightly different breakpoints, slightly different pressure points.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to the fact that the pressure means that you have taken away Pocket Galaxy, but the main effect of it is the Mountain Giant. You know, once again, I listed the auxiliary reason first when I initially mentioned that. It just so happens to be that pressure also helps you fight against Mountain Giant.
Yeah, turn 5 is not always the first turn that your opponent can play a Mountain Giant, but it's fairly common that is the case.
And so for here at Bunnyhoppor, I am looking at this Edwin Van Cleef and then looking at this Hench Clan Burglar Vendetta, and I'm seeing that as a 1-2 punch that can handle it.
I'm also just seeing a 4-4 that can get in play right now and start hitting my opponent.
Yeah, I am a bit curious about it, though, with the Shark, where if Bozzzton has a dead turn, can you justify, like, next turn Burglar or Shark, and then move a different direction?
It is very strong in that sense, where if you do get a Shark into Edwin kind of turn going as the Rogue in this matchup, you essentially get into a position where you have to demand a freeze every single turn for the rest of the game, or your opponent has to spend 3 mana giving you 2 3-drops to remove your Edwin Van Cleef. Neither of which is a great problem.
No, those are bad deals.
Yeah.
Mountain Giant is eligible for play here. Evocation Mountain Giant. I think for Bozzzton right now, he is looking at specifically waiting until he can engineer the Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling turn specifically. But I don't know if Bunnyhoppor's going to give him that kind of time.
It's not looking that way currently.
I wonder.
There's kind of 2 scenarios Bozzzton Sand's playing towards right now. One is Evocation Giant Conjurer's Calling, like as soon as that's available. The other is Sea Giant Frost Nova in a similar spot, like when that's available.
Astral Rift could let you Giant and Conjurers next turn.
Time runs out on me.
Astral Rift will put 7 cards in hand, and now it'll put
Goes
8 cards in
4,
hand.
and then it goes to 3. Yeah. Yep.
I love how in your head it just parses as Innervate. Not the worst looking minions picked up either. There's a Ziliax in the deck for Bozzzton, so Ursatron Ziliax, I think. But a second Vendetta for Bunnyhoppor means that I think he's going to be able to very cleanly answer this pair of Giants.
Which of these cards excites you in a strange way, Admirable?
None of them.
Oh. Oh.
I know. It's just like, in a Luna's. I guess Leroy would cost 1. That's kind of cool. When does Rogue ever have that kind of time, though? Like, I never spend no mana as Rogue. I always spend all of my mana and stare at 30 mana extra in my hand.
Yeah.
I guess the Bestial Wrath in, with Blink Fox is a thought.
Sure.
Choose soon.
Does he have a Fox in play right now? He doesn't, right?
He does not have a Fox in play currently. So Luna's it is. I guess it's possible. Maybe not this game.
He's just taking it for next game.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. Honestly, like, as dumb as that sounds, it's almost the case. Like, those were 3 terrible options. So he took the one which, I guess, in his head had the most upside sometimes. Like, maybe he has one dead turn and he plays that and he gets some game-winning draw with it. Like, there's some high roll potential there. Sometimes, most likely, any of those 3 cards he took would not have got played this game.
All right, so let's look at the breakdown here. Backstab plus 3 minions equals kill, 2 Vendettas equals kill. And that would mean Big Edwin.
Alternatively, he could use Ziliax instead to preserve more of his existing minions and push more face damage right now.
I think he's interested in both checking this Mountain Giant and hedging for Sea Giant as well.
That's fair.
Does the backstab onto your Amani Berserker change a breakpoint of anything? Like, would you rather do that and, you know, pay health on a dagger, for instance? Or use a Goblin Lackey? Ah.
Goblin Lackey helps, yeah. Goblin Lackey's a really big deal.
Do you just want to deal the damage, like you Edwin and you rush it into the 7/8? Oh!
Wow, okay.
Deal damage!
So this is like the halfway version between both of the 2 plays we were looking at, but significantly better than both of them?
Well, I won't say significantly better, because this does offer Bozzzton some counterplay. Where I'm looking at, like, Frost Nova Ping suddenly becoming pretty darn effective. But the problem is, Frost Novas and Pings, you're looking at that occupying 7 of his next 13 mana. Like, he's got 6 mana to work with, and it's split up over 2 turns.
Right, and also because of the board that he's kept here by making the trade the way that he did, and because of the amount of damage he pushed by making the trade the way that he did, even if Frost Nova Ping comes down this turn, his board still demands Frost Nova again next turn, which is the whole goal of having that Edwin Van Cleef in play. In fact, in some ways, it's better than that, because Ray of Frost doesn't suddenly shut down your whole board, as it does if you're fully invested into one Edwin Van Cleef.
I just don't think Bozzzton has another play. Frost Nova Ursatron, perhaps?
Also, one final note on this play from Bunnyhoppor. Check out the cost of the Sea Giant, and if you think that's an accident from Bunnyhoppor's side, you are wrong. That is deliberate.
Correct.
Bunnyhoppor did not want a Sea Giant coming down with a Frost Nova this turn. Ideally, he didn't want any minion at all coming down with a Frost Nova this turn.
But if one's going to come down, that's probably close to ideal.
Yep. And I do actually like this line somewhat from Bozzzton. The problem is he's potentially setting himself up for a high roll if the Khadgar lives. But the problem is that he would be high rolling Conjurer's Calling on a Sea Giant, which offers 0 defensive options the vast majority of the time. Asterisk, Big Bag Archmage sometimes. So the fact the board state would still be there would still leave him in an enormous amount of trouble, even if the Khadgar does stick.
So this is a nod to mirror image draw then.
Potentially so, yeah. Might signal his intentions to just go off on a different minion here instead. Just try and high roll off Sandbinder. If the Khadgar lives.
Unity, precision,
Not living.
No.
Choose soon.
But like, I agree with Bozzzton's mentality of just having to do something. Frostnova ping off the 9-1 just seemed kind of obvious, but then what did he ever do next turn that way? He just had no plan. He'd need to draw the perfect card back-to-back for like 3 to 4 turns straight in that position.
It is also a nod to just drawing more freezes as well.
Yes.
I like his play the more I think about it. I think he just got pushed into a very tough spot and was not going to get out of it without a fortunate situation.
Yeah, I don't specifically want to say that I like that play, but I like that he was digging for an out that wasn't just pinging off the 9-1. Because
That's right.
I don't really think that put him in a significantly or a very high win percentage position.
Are we in Conjurer's the opponent minion territory?
Yikes.
Someday I'll be just like you.
That leaves you dead.
Real dead.
You win this.
Game 1 to Bunnyhoppor. Edwin Van Cleef, rush it, leave it in play as 1 health, and the mage cannot find a way to kill it off and win the game. That seems rare.
Yeah, I think that play ends up being super sick for Bunnyhoppor. I do wonder at the end there whether that was a conjures your opponent's 2-drop kind of play, because I think you can still, even if you hit it, you can then like throw your Ursatron into that to then draw your Ziliax for next turn, which potentially like puts you in a position where you can dig yourself out, but it's such tiny numbers that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Bozzzton, for the last 2 to 3 turns in that spot, was in a very rough position, did his best to dig his way out, couldn't find it.
I think all of that hinged on the finding the Edwin to rush in and use its health as the resource, where
Yes.
it's like, well, if this 9-1 occupies 2 mana, I'm going to win the game off the damage I have in play.
Yes, and again, crucially, if he trades all of his other minions and he just has small board with a huge Edwin left on it, you're then opening up your opponent to have just Ray of Frost to be able to prevent them to keep themselves alive. The way he spread out the threats so wide across his board, 4-3 over here, 5-1 here, 9-1 here, the Ray of Frost just doesn't neutralize that. It would have to be Ray of Frost 2 minions, ping the 3rd one, and then that's essentially your whole turn locked up in terms of what you can effectively do alongside that.
Yeah, that sounds like a Frost Nova ping turn.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if Frost Nova Ping comes down, you can tell by how much we talked about how that wasn't an effective turn for Bozzzton, that Bunnyhoppor was perfectly fine seeing Frost Nova Ping in that situation. So I think his play covered all the bases. Neither of us spotted it, but having seen it, I think it makes a ton of sense.
Well, that's sort of the gist of the whole thing.
That's why they're there and we're here.
Correct. I can see what they're doing right after they do it. Until then, I'm like, I'm going to play my big thing.
It's just that much too late. Only ever so slightly.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to a quick break. So that's where we're at right now. Bozzzton versus Bunnyhoppor. Bunnyhoppor's up a game of this one. We'll see what they can have in their side decks. Definitely both of them going to be making the swap up. So stay tuned. You don't need to miss this match because Bunnyhoppor, very crucial for him to win this one if he wants to keep the playoff dreams alive.
Welcome to this edition of Around the Fern with TJ and Just Saying.
Happy to be here.
Glad to hear it. So I've talked to this about you before. I've never heard you exclaim. So we have an hour in this room, and my goal is going to be to get you to exclaim.
That's just not going to happen.
It is going to happen. Imagine you're walking down the street. You just got lunch. It's a delicious burrito. You're hungry. You haven't eaten in 2 days. Then some guy walks up on the street, punches you in the face, and steals your burrito. You're out of money. You don't have cash. You didn't drive there. You walked there an hour. And now this guy comes up and punches you and steals your burrito. How do you react?
I don't even like burritos. I thank the guy and say whatever. I was waiting for.
What's your
Uber Eats
favorite
anyway.
food?
I mean, it has to be something with rice, but like I kind of like risotto. The Italian style is very nice.
Italian style risotto. Now imagine you're walking down the street, you get your Italian risotto, and then a guy comes up to you, punches you in the face, and steals your risotto. What do you do?
Actually, I just.
Do you yell? Do you
I
scream?
get confused. I'm mad,
You're mad, so you
But-
want to yell.
but then I think this guy probably needs it more than me. I don't think it's physically
Let's say you're in a
possible for me.
giant field and you're strapped to a chair. The only person that can save you is 1,000 yards away. If you don't yell to them to communicate to them, you're going to sit in that chair forever because that's the only other person on earth. Do you yell to them to save your life?
I mean, if he's the only other person on Earth, do I like this guy? Are we friends even?
He's blind.
I just admit that this is the end. Last person on Earth. I don't know about, like, is his personality nice? Like, is he fun to hang out with? Or
Can we play a game?
yeah, we can play
I'm
games.
going to say a word, and you have to say it slightly louder. Risotto. 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 Risotto.
Risotto.
Yes, this is the European region for Hearthstone Grandmasters, believe it or not. We're in week 7, which means that this is the final week before we head into playoffs next week. And that's admirable. And joining me is Soddle. And Soddle, Bunnyhoppor is up to a 1-0 lead facing off against Bozzzton. But now we got both of them switching it up. We got secondary and tertiary decks coming into play.
We do indeed. Bunnyhoppor, for his part, is doing the standard stuff. It's going to be Betrayals, it's going to be Fairy Dragons, and it's going to be Walk the Planks coming in. Bozzzton, he's going Frostbolt, Halftime Scavenger, Rabble Bouncer. We've talked about it already. We talked about just about everything there is to talk about Rogue versus Mage. Coming into this just because of the amount of series we had, but there is a slight difference with that Rabble Bouncer coming in for Bozzzton. I know we've had a bit of a debate over the usage of Rabble Bouncer in Mage, Admirable.
Yeah, I like it.
I do not.
Well, I know you don't. It's because you're dumb.
All right, good
Look at that
talk.
Look at that last game versus the Edwin, versus the Damani Berserker, versus all those little 1-2s and 1-1s. What would have been the perfect card to have right there? Rabble Bouncer. Rabble Bouncer.
So he could have Frost Nova Rabble Bounced exactly in that
Rabble
position.
Bouncer.
Risotto.
I think it's great. I think when your opponent's playing lots of 1-1s that generate value, that's the ideal kind of card you want. A card that punishes your opponent for having lots of 1-1s in play.
Yeah, I think when it's good, it's good. However, sometimes the 2 attack on it is quite weak against Rogue because they can just trade through it. For example, if there's a Hench Clan Burglar and a Blink Fox on board,
For sure.
free trades, and you're sad because there's then 2 minions that you want to ping and you can't, and this deck rarely wants to ping anyway. Then on top of that, when it's bad, it's really bad. When you're just facing down a minion, a board that has 1 or 2 minions on the board the whole time, and you're sat with a 7 or 6 mana, or a 6 or 5 mana 2/7 in your hand, like it's just not a good spot to be in.
I want to go back to your Hench Clan Burglar Blink Fox hypothetical, and I will answer that hypothetical with, I think that Explosive Trap plus Ice Barrier sounds like a pretty good card. That's what the Rabble Bouncer would be in that circumstance you just laid out to me. It's Explosive Trap and Ice Barrier. It damages their minions for 2, and it gains health.
Okay.
Perfect. That's exactly the kind of card I want versus Rogue.
Sometimes.
If I could fill my deck with Ice Barrier / Explosive Traps in the same card, I'd be pretty happy with them.
Sometimes, Admirable, your arguments are so nonsensical that I'm actually unable to reply to them, and it feels like you've won by default, but I promise you, you haven't.
Default. Default. I'll take those all day. Bozzzton, at the start of this match, if you didn't catch it, he was experiencing some power issues. So we're getting the game connected. As far as I can tell, the game is still connected right now. I don't have an update yet, but that's where we're at. He was experiencing some power-related issues. So we appreciate your patience, and we're getting it resolved as quickly as we can. He does want to play the match, and I'm certain Bunnyhoppor wants to play it against him as well. Bunnyhoppor's not the kind of person who, like me, will take default wins.
Wait, are you saying you are or aren't a person that would take default?
I just chanted for default.
Okay. I'm totally with you.
I literally chanted for default.
I'm totally with you. I am a massive scumbag. If it's in the rules, I will abuse those rules to my benefit.
Within the spirit of the game.
No, get the spirit of the game within the rules.
But the spirit of the game demands competitive integrity. As long as it's by the rules, as long as you didn't trick somebody.
No, of course. Yeah, but if there is a rule there, then I would ask for that rule to be enforced in any scenario where it is applicable.
When I was a younger, much angrier man, the trickster part of me would be like, that's part of the game. It's trickster stuff. But as I've grown older and wiser and come to actually appreciate competition, if it's in the rules, it's in the rules. But I'm not going to try to go out of my way to create a circumstance where the rules happen for me that way.
I mean,
let's do that.
There's some games where carnival trickster strategies are kind of actually part of the spirit of the game,
yeah,
right?
like carnivals.
Yes. But yeah, bottom line, huge game for both of these players, and point we're getting at really is that Bunnyhoppor is as interested in playing this as Bozzzton is, which is why we're allowing them just a little bit of leeway to get things back in shape. But honestly, the matchup has been done to death at this point already. Even at this point in the broadcast, there's not much more we can add here, apart from the fact, I think the interesting point here is that Bunnyhoppor here finds himself 1-0 up as the rogue, whereas in our previous series, the successful players, the players who are at the top of the league pushing for that playoff spot have been on the mage side, and we have seen mage winning. Whereas now, Bunnyhoppor, so far the better player in terms of league standings, finds himself on the rogue and is actually finding himself successful in the series from the rogue side. That just kind of tickles my interesting bone just a little bit.
We actually have some dex stats that can perhaps... What did you say it was?
Tickle my interesting bone?
Yeah, tickle the... Let's see if we can tickle your interesting bone.
That feels like a phrase we probably shouldn't repeat too many times now that I think about it.
You're the one who has that down pat. This is, as far as all the casters are concerned. I think Dan is honorable mention with you on that one. But take a look at this one right here. We're seeing the cards that players are using in their decks. Stargazer Luna and Ziliax have not been decisively used in Mage at this point, or rather not unanimously used in Mage at this point, which I find quite interesting alongside the Leroy Jenkins not being unanimously used in Rogue. What the heck happened to that deck?
Yeah, well, we've already seen Stargazer Luna making room in sideboard for Viper. I think, interestingly as well, we talked about Control Warrior quite a lot last week and how it has the potential to really shift the metagame. We might be getting too late in proceedings for it to have a significant impact in Season 1. We'll wait and see what the expansion brings in terms of Season 2. But you can see there, Blastmaster Boom only being packed in 78% of the Warrior decks, which means Control Warrior is sneaking in there just a little bit as well. And I do think that deck, if it had come out a week or two earlier, the trickle-down effect that some of the Bomb Warriors becoming Control Warrior has on the metagame is a huge paradigm shift in terms of which other decks are powerful, what kind of sideboards you're looking at, what kind of tech cards you're playing in your deck. The difference between Control Warrior and Bomb Warrior, for just the sake of a few cards, is huge.
Yeah, I got word that Bunnyhoppor and Bozzzton are amidst their game. We have lost the spectator feed for that.
Okay.
So we have not interrupted the gameplay. The game is continuing as though it were taking place. So that's the update that we have. And I guess we'll just kind of go forward from there. I like your points about the Control Warrior, though. I think if that Control Warrior deck had kind of snuck in a little bit earlier, it would have been way different, because the latter players have been crushing with Control Warrior at the top end.
Yes. I mentioned that this was a talk in a couple of Discords coming into this, that a couple of players had kind of conferred with some of the hardcore ladder players who aren't really massively involved in the tournament scene. And they really still kind of go by deck aggregation sites and trackers and so on. And in that front, Control Warrior is a huge stat leader in terms of win rate in a lot of situations. And they're really pushing quite heavily for Control Warrior. Control Warrior came into Grandmasters last week and had a fantastic performance. It's back again this week in some of the other regions. But speaking of back again, we have gameplay back again between Bozzzton and Bunnyhoppor. And it looks like Bunnyhoppor has got himself off to a decent pressure start here again with a couple of Henge Clan burglars in hand.
This looks pretty fantastic for Bunnyhoppor, I'd say. If you're looking at Bozzzton's side, he has the option to play the Mountain Giant next turn with Conjurer's Calling in the same line of play he took last turn, It presents the dynamic threat for Bunnyhoppor. He has to have 2 answers. But with Vendetta, with Walk the Plank, and with another Henge Clan Burglar to add right here, he's going to have that. Now, the kicker is he's going to be out of minions afterwards.
Yes.
But Bozzzton's going to be out of minions afterwards too, unless he draws something. So when you're talking about just drawing a minion, Bunnyhoppor definitely has more of those.
Yeah. And we do see Bozzzton with a Luna's Pocket Galaxy in his hand, which signifies, along with some of the other junk that he's got there, that a Mana Cyclone turn has popped off this turn.
Let me check the deck list. Icicle, Arcane, Missiles, and Unexpected Results. Yeah, those aren't in the deck.
Thank you. That was essential. I was unclear.
So I'm here to clear things up for you. I don't know why I said it that way, as though it were something
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. I was trying to
Literally
decipher
just
the
said.
punchline, and it really just wasn't there.
Ooh. So that always changes the way that I view the Conjurer's Calling turn, where I think to myself, can I just delay the game enough to get to the Khadgar Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling turn?
I disagree. I think drawing the Khadgar specifically makes the Elemental Evocation play better, as long as that is still a Twin Spell Conjurer's Calling in his hand, because you get 2 Giants on board, and if one of them survives, then you just have Khadgar Conjurer's Calling to end the game immediately after that.
And if your opponent's going to wait for Khadgar on their Conjurer's Calling, Betrayal is about the best card you can draw when
It
that's
sure
going to happen.
is, yeah.
Holy smokes, this game.
And that card's been one of the big talking points for me, in the scenario you face down most often in the matchup is 2 minions, right? They save up, they don't play their 1 big minion because they're scared of Walk the Plank. They save up for a giant Conjurer's Calling turn of some variety. In that case, Betrayal is a similar card to Walk the Plank in that specific scenario, but it still only kills 1 minion because you target one and it kills the other. So it's an oddly situational card to see coming into the deck, which I think is the reason why it is a 1-of and Walk the Plank is a 2-of. But that's not the case consistently. There are players in this tournament this week who have 2 Betrayals and 1 copy of Walk the Plank.
And after saying last week that Luna's was a bad card, we then see this happen.
Well, that's what he meant, right? Like, why put it in your deck if you can just get it for free anyway?
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So it's not a bad card, it's a bad card to include.
Do.
I mean, that is a distinction, yes. But I think Bozzzton was pretty clear. He just said it was a bad card.
So the Khadgar now is eyeing the
Ziliax,
Unexpected Results.
or the Ziliax. I think this is very reasonable as well. Board full of 5-drops, sign me up. Yep. Whew.
5/5 is the stat line you want. Yeah, that's an excellent turn. That's going to pull away too much of the attention for Bunnyhoppor. However, this is, and again, this is the Betrayal situation. It's specifically for Khadgar turns, really. It's flexible in the double giant turns, or the double minion turns. It's good against the Khadgar turns.
Yes. And I do like this sequence from Bozzzton, because if you look at what's going to happen here, this board is going to peel away some potential removal from Bunnyhoppor's hand, and then his mana usage on the following turn, he's going to draw a card down to a 4-mana Mountain Giant. He can immediately go Giant Conjurer's Calling on the following turn, having sucked some of the removal, hopefully, out of Bunnyhoppor's hand.
I got a feeling all this stuff is dying. Oh!
Yep,
No, that
Yep.
was the one you needed!
that's a yikes.
Bunnyhoppor favoring the damage super heavily, but this is exactly what he did in game 1. He favored the damage, and Bozzzton failed 1 check. You can even get the Banana Buffoon down as well. Are you more interested in Ray of Frost? Having seen Betrayal and Walk the Plank, this feels like the prime turn. You also saw Vendetta as well.
What to do?
Yep.
What to do?
Yeah, I think it's just a really solid 1-2 punch from Bozzzton, the way he set this up. Of course, the randomly generated Lunas into the immediate draw of a minion was fantastic. Ziliax, one of the best minions he could have found in that spot, because it allowed him to take care of some of the board state before the Conjurer's Calling came down. And that did peel all the removal out of Bunnyhoppor's hand, as I was describing.
Yeah, I think he's in trouble.
Looking very much like it's going to be our first game 3 of the day. Although just for now at least, Bozzzton's hand is out of things to do. The problem is the quality of his deck remaining.
His hand is also just, for this particular scenario, it's quite good.
Yeah. Stall out the board, connect with Giant a couple of times. It's got the perfect hand for getting that kind of thing done.
Yeah, you just kill everything.
Yep.
Their opponent spent all of their cards to get to this point. They have 2 randomly generated cards and 1 card natural from the deck. You get to blow up their minions and punch them for 2. It's debating the unexpected results and what that might change. How does that affect the sequencing? Thinking Mana Worm. Thinking Sorcerer's Apprentice.
That's the big one.
Oh my, and Bunnyhoppor.
That means that Ilias Sibelius can now play his entire hand this turn if he would so choose.
Yeah, this is one of the Sibelius turns I've ever seen. I love how you are containing your laughter rather than just letting it rip. I feel so much less justified in making that great line now.
That was really funny.
Quad banana, come on. No! I wanted to see all the bananas. And face.
Yeah, I don't think Vendetta's getting you out of this pickle you found yourself in.
You need to have the pressure for the removal to matter. The walk the so he would have been a trade-off of a minion in order to preserve the walk the plank. I'm actually just not sure that's worth it. I'm trying to think back to that turn to use the walk the plank because that was the pressure point. He interpreted that as no giant.
Yes, because obviously you know that the Conjurer's Calling is there, so therefore you can very quickly look at your opponent's hand size and say, okay, I know he has a twin-spelled Conjurer's Calling, therefore if he has a giant, it's exact mana usage for him to giant Conjurer's Calling on the following turn. So to throw away all of your removal like that is either a read to say I don't think he has the giant, or a call to say if he has giant, I probably don't win this game anyway.
Yeah. And if this is your turn, that's correct.
Yes. Bunnyhoppor's hand is looking a little low on cards there. Can I help him out a little bit? No. Okay. Sure. That seems fine.
This is more expensive than the first one was.
It is true.
To be a secret in his hand, he just has the secret down and copies the ethereal. Yep, it's game 3 time. Bunnyhoppor out pressured, even after the early tempo with the removal that he had. Just not enough. That Luna's honestly shaped a lot of the next couple turns for Bozzzton. The fact that he was able to play the Luna safely, I think, is sort of where the stage gets set. You're like, I'm not under enough pressure to justify foregoing the Lunas here. And then he just draws Ziliax right off the back of that to start the full removal train necessary for Bunnyhoppor to stay in.
Yeah, I think the important thing is that he recognized the diversion that the Ziliax draw led him to, where he was very much on a Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling plan, you know, as soon as possible. He drew the Khadgar, maybe that changed his mind a little bit. But then when he saw the Ziliax came off, he recognized how powerful that was to A, be able to address the board state a little bit, but also create a board with 5 drops. You know, on average, they're going to have 4 and a bit health. So that will pull out, you know, Betrayals, Walk the Planks, Vendettas from your opponent's hand. I don't think in his wildest dreams Bozzzton imagined he'd peel out as much removal as he did on that turn, but the good news for him is that if he didn't peel away that much removal, he would keep some minions in play because the removal wouldn't be there to take care of it. So it was very much a win-win scenario for him, where he calculated his hand size, would then follow up with Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling afterwards.
Very nice. And so that means game number 3 is coming up right now. They're sticking on the secondary and tertiary decks, so Fairy Dragon's Walk the Plank stuff and the Frostbolt Halftime Scavenger and Rabble Bouncer. And you know, you're starting to convince me, as well as some of the others, about this Halftime Scavenger stuff in the board, where maybe the deck is just kind of fine. versus Rogue. You just need to have the right kinds of hands. Like, is defense going to win you the game, or is explosive turns going to win you the game? I feel like the halftime scavenger actually might specifically be there for, like, your opponent plays Spear to the Shark. You don't want to play anything and have the Shark pop off on you. You play halftime scavenger into it.
I think that's fair. You kind of preload an answer. You can't spend that turn removing the Shark, so spend your next turn removing the Shark by pre-developing the 3 power that you have in play, which, again, as you mentioned, can't be targeted by the Shark effects that they're going to want to use with lackeys and so on the turn afterwards.
Threatens Conjurer's Calling.
Yep.
Threatens to just, kind of be a big clunky thing as well. It's got the 5 health marker, which is a bit awkward.
Yeah, but I think it's a very, very difficult matchup to assess because Rogue is primarily a tempo deck, but they're not the fastest at seizing that tempo. They seize the tempo around the mid game, not, from they don't curve out a 1-drop into a 2-drop and go from there like decks have done in the past. But Mage has this unique ability to, no matter how much tempo you've gained incrementally through, turn 3, 4, 5, they can just blow past all of that in a single turn and just say, my turn. It's my turn now. I made 4 giants. The game has shifted and there's nothing you can do about it. So because of that, to consistently beat Mage, you do have to put weird reactive cards in your deck sometimes, and that's what we're seeing come out from the Rogues more and more as Grandmasters has gone on.
No Fairy Dragon picked up for Bunnyhoppor, and that means we're looking at a very natural curve, and that's going to have to be good enough. Now, Bozzzton side, he is missing Giant and missing card draw. Banana Buffoon is a nice supplementary marker to that, but I feel overall this game is probably Bozzzton favored because of the pace of play that's going to be at hand here.
Yes. Fairly slow from Bunnyhopper's side.
Don't want to add a minion and give backstab miscreant. Standard when you're on coin with Mage.
Yes. Such huge upside to being able to land the Apprentice there. Just if it's stuck to board, it could just potentially be game ending with the follow-up that you have. But yeah, it's such a high-risk scenario that probably not worth it. We heard Bunnyhoppor speak just a little bit beforehand that he said he doesn't think you can be a top-level Hearthstone player. You can't play the best possible Hearthstone without taking risks because he feels like you're just leaving percentage on the table if you're just too scared to make certain plays. Don't think that was the kind of scenario he was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scenario where if you get backstabbed and you miscreant, you might lose.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's Apprentice, I think, is outside of the obvious effects and, the reason the deck exists, Sorcerer's Apprentice is probably the best card in the deck. It just allows you to do some just dumb things. Like, I'm looking at this turn for Bozzzton, and I'm thinking both Banana Buffoon and Arcane Intellect look like powerful things. And the reason I like the Banana Buffoon is because of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. This threatens to cast the entire hand on the next turn. And Bunnyhoppor doesn't know that. And I think that's one of the most vital parts of the entire deck, is that the range of cards you can have are so scary and so different for your opponent.
Bozzzton doesn't really have a way to pay off his hand size right now, which is why potentially I would give a lot of weight to the Arcane Intellect, because hand size is all well and good, but if you don't have a Mountain Giant to play, if you don't have a Mana Cyclone to turn all those cards into different cards, then there's not really a lot going on. So I actually kind of like the Arcane Intellect in that position for that reason.
See, the reason I don't like the Arcane Intellect is because now that you have that, you're under pressure. And when you're under pressure, these plays don't stick as well.
You think a 2-2 really changes the pressure equation that much?
I think it does, because it offers you a way to tempo and answer the board. And if you draw a Mountain Giant or a Mana Cyclone or what have you, it makes sense. Now, I like the argument for digging deeper into the deck. That's one of the reasons Arcane Intellect is there. It's to find the important cards.
Yes.
So I very much am in the camp of that. Like, I have no problem with using Arcane Intellect. It's just, for me, I feel the way I lose the matchup is I lose the fight for board.
Sure.
You know the importance of Unleash the Hounds versus Mage when you're a hunter. What's it like when you're a rogue?
Choose soon.
Bunnyhoppor, quick internal dialogue while he decides whether he wants to push this one or not. really comes down to how likely he is or isn't to play that Waggle pick over the coming turns. He decides not very. I think one of the reasons why Bozzzton may have been more comfortable playing the Arcane Intellect there is that he did have the Frostbolt in hand, so he knows that he can relieve pressure quite easily and effectively. We talked about how great Frostbolt is in the matchup at length during the broadcast so far. And now he has the potential for some huge turns. The only thing really holding him back is that his hand size is actually too high for the most effective possible Mana Cyclone turn he could have this turn.
Yeah, that's kind of drawing my attention as well, is that the hand size is a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like generate the full Cyclone either.
Nope. You don't even have to have the Cyclone turn this turn. By setting up Frostbolt ping, he now gets a target for double Ray of Frost to kill, guaranteed on the board next turn.
God, the Frostbolt is so important.
It's great.
Like that one play right there delayed so much pressure from Bunnyhoppor.
Yep.
That using the Arcane Intellect makes this look so beautiful. Where I just feel like he has all the time in the world right now.
He's at 27. There's 3 on the board. Just kind of chilling.
And for Bunnyhoppor, it just really boils down to how much damage can I push as quickly as possible. And I'm going to look at that dagger swing eternally and wonder
Don't,
that have happened
don't do
previous
it.
turn.
Don't get down this rabbit hole, Nathan.
It's too late. I want to push that one. Yeah, and I'm going to say it every time. I have the Waggle pick in hand. I would have done it every time. I think all of Bunnyhoppor's plays lead him to the same road for Bozzzton. Delay until I find the payoff.
As
There's
long
a
as
front
it
half
keeps
of a Ray
at
of
it.
Frost coming out here. And that's a massive threat.
Yep. Worth noting, it wasn't really relevant at the time because the Scavenger was the top deck, but the ping on the 3-2 last turn actually becomes important as well for the overkill reason on the halftime Scavenger.
Overkill, gain 3 armor.
Yep. Likely still not going to see that come into play just because, again, Rare Frost being able to take care of the 3-2 is probably more effective than, you know, leaving a minion alive just so you can get overkill with the halftime Scavenger on the 3-2. But we shall see.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a high interest in just, again, delaying as much as possible here. His hand is so good.
Shooting Star, I believe.
Yep.
Oh, up to no good.
Choose soon.
Bunnyhoppor again, internal dialogue.
There's a lot more merit for saving it this turn. Shooting Star popped up.
Yep. Lots of 2 health minions that need killing.
You have a Miscreant in play for another chip away.
Yep. I think, importantly, he hasn't floated the mana where he would re-equip a dagger or looked like playing the Waggle pick at any point yet. So the punish for not swinging on that one turn does seem like it's a long way away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I want to clarify my statement with I probably also would have instantaneously lost the game to a Zilliax this game. And I think when you have half-out Scavenger, some of that. Ooh.
Okay.
Not this. I mean, you said 3 and a bit health on the 5 drops, or 4 and a bit. This is more looking like the a bit part to me.
Well, now we're in 4 drops, which is a very different equation. But that is still a low roll. I think Rare Frost comes down here. I think Bozzzton needs hand space. It's something that I wanted to bring up for a couple of turns about whether Bozzzton was perhaps being a little bit too precious over hand size and not burning Cyclone cards. you know, preventing him from making the really explosive turn that was available to him on a couple of opportunities.
Well, I'm kind of looking at this Unleash the Hounds and thinking
Yeah.
some really bad stuff could happen.
Bunny says he's not going. Actually, there's no. He can still do this first and still get max Unleash value right now. And he has 4 spaces on board.
I wonder how much trading he's doing versus face. That one's definitely on deck to be picked off.
Yeah, I feel like Khadgar's dying, and then I'm unclear how many of these other minions I care about. Don't think it's many of them, though.
Sea Giant would be the, I think, main consideration.
That's true. Okay, yeah, without trades, you're just offering up 0 mana Sea Giant a lot of the time, or Bozzzton to manipulate a position where he gets 0 mana Sea Giant.
Oh! Risotto! And that is clear direction after you get that charge. That is a free 4 damage.
Sink it. 4 to the face. Leroy in hand, Khadgar down for Bozzzton, which means that mirror image is much more limited protection.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not a call-out by any means, but I just wonder whether this kind of turn could have happened 1 or 2 turns earlier, and Bozzzton just shut his eyes and forget about the fact that he was probably going to burn cards as a result.
Spy's a lot extra.
It does.
6 extra health immediate. You have the 0-2 taunts in the way. A lot of the rogue burst comes from just purely attacking. Yeah, Bunnyhoppor obviously not happy with the bananas coming out in the immediate as well. You know what happens. That's a nice pickup. The rest of those are bad, though.
Really bad. There's nothing overly defensive there. No Vaporize, no Ice Barrier, nothing that, you know, keeps him alive in terms of the damage that's going to come out from hand from Bunnyhoppor. Bozzzton, of course, doesn't necessarily know that's the position he's in. As he finds Mirror Image again, that can be potentially huge.
He ran out of time to play stuff. I will say that this turn was cleaner from Bozzzton than I've seen in the random generation turns in the past, where he takes a lot of time on them. This time he kept going. He paced it and he consistently kept going. And I feel like that is something that he almost made a point of in this game.
I don't know if there's necessarily anything in his hand that he would want to play this time.
Well, a card so you don't burn something. Like, draws from his deck, I think, are critically important right now. Mountain Giants are there. Sea Giants are there. Still Frost Nova's there. Like, the cards from your deck are worth a lot more than a Shooting Star.
All right, you can throw away a Shooting Star. Yeah, you're right. I think the mirror image is massively important, though. Just having mirror image up on as many separate turns as possible is actually like a lot more important than just making a lot of them now, so that they're all killed in 1 turn, and then you're free to Leroy the next turn.
This Blade Flurry offer as well.
Takes it.
Oh, I wish I had that Waggle pick in place so badly a turn earlier. It just wasn't usable. Like, he just didn't have
it just
turn.
Yeah, it wasn't a good Waggle pick turn at any point, I don't think. We can go back and look, but it never really felt like a Waggle pick turn on any given turn.
That's why I made that comment of I feel like I would have lost the game instantaneously. Don't care about the magic trick. And if Bozzzton tries to counterattack here, that Blade Flurry is a massive kicker to that game plan. He has to clean the board if he's going to counterattack.
So right now he has 10 in play. So if he feels like he pushes 10 and then he pushes 10 again the following turn, he has lethal with Fireball.
That's the thing, is I feel like he has a lot of justification for making a play like that.
Yep. Frost Nova in hand, Ziliax in hand. A lot of ways he can set himself up to race here. I think race is the plan that he's going to take.
Yeah. The thing about it, too, is this would be a great turn, I think, for him if he's going to take that counterattack plan to actually Ziliax and not attack. That this is not a really readily identifiable thing for him, though, is if he does that, he's not vulnerable to the Blade Flurry, but can you account for Blade Flurry? No, you're accounting for, like, Sap and then a Leroy pushing past you and you die.
Right.
So you take the extra health.
Yeah, you're also just accounting for him having one less minion on the board. You know, like if this goes wrong, you're now like progressively clearing his board out turn after turn.
And I like that Bozzzton has completely deviated away from that. And he's on setup taunts and go. That's Spellbender in play, and that's something that Bunnyhoppor's going to worry about.
Holds the Frost Nova though, so now the 3/3 takes the 3/2 off the board for sure, and he's only showing what 4, 7, 8 plus the Fireball, so he doesn't set himself up with a 2-turn lethal the way that he's done this.
Well, I think he's going to check the counter spell with Walk the Plank, is what I genuinely believe, but I don't know if that develops hard enough because you get a 1-cost Blink Fox. This won't check for anything because there's no space.
Correct.
So maybe he checks with this. Now, he can't check with the Waggle Pick. That takes away the Blade Flurry. Long story short, he has to Blade Flurry this turn. And so, would you rather risk it being a counterspell or let it rip?
So many options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
He gets to redevelop the Blink Fox. And Bozzzton certainly had to be confused when he saw that. And that's the bad news. Oh, that wince. Oh, I feel for him. Oh, and no minion.
What if
to
Lunas
do?
just wins him both
What
games?
to do?
Well, then we ask him about it. What if he just dies in the next 2 turns?
Again, he's taken his Antonidas out.
Oh!
Tertiary deck. Life Drinker, Missiles,
Oh!
Leroy, 3+3+6 makes 12 where I'm from. And Bunnyhoppor is going to keep pace, and you can see what it means. Little drum on his desk there. It looked for large periods of that series that Bunnyhoppor was fighting his way from behind, but he's able to scrap his way through. And now, our first 3 series of the day, 2 have gone to Mage and 1 have gone to Rogue in the exact same matchup, but all of which towards the players who are at the top of those standings fighting for those playoff spots.
I feel for Bozzzton this one. I'm happy for Bunnyhoppor because I think the matchup, on paper, in terms of the grand scheme of things, means more for his standings.
Yes.
It's also just, really cool that now at the top of it, it's getting really stacked, and so I have more things to talk about and more, just generic stuff is on the line. But for Bozzzton, I feel for him because I don't feel like this season he's been able to really strut his stuff and show what he's got. I feel like he's been put against the wall just a number of times, and sometimes the pan-outs not really going your way. But for Bunnyhoppor, he's played fantastic, and we have an interview for him. Bunnyhoppor, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
you with us? Bunny, hello?
Yeah, my
okay,
connection's
cool.
gone at the start.
Yeah, I was just kind of doing the delay thing to make it as awkward as possible as well. Just giving you a taste of your own medicine on that one. Talk to me about the match. This was an important one, and you took it down.
Well, I mean, the delay wasn't due to me. Okay, so
That I note that. I'm just continue.
anyway, I mean, it's kind of funny how the only game he won was with Lunas, right?
Yep,
I thought that was kind of funny.
I agree.
Why is that funny?
Because I think Lunas and auto include in your Cyclone mix.
And so because he doesn't
And I'm
have it and he got it
totally
from
with-
Cyclone?
Exactly. I'm totally with Orange on this. It might not be like the best card ever, and it's not like Skull on 5, but I think the card is very, very strong.
Wait, you mean Luna's Pocket Galaxy doesn't convert your minions to 0 cost and then put them directly into play from your hand?
I mean, kind of. Like, if you do it like he did in game 2, when you draw them off the top, it kind of does the same thing,
It
right?
actually kind of does do that, yeah.
That actually is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You just have to draw them off the top.
Right. Anyway, before we get too far down this rabbit hole, obviously you watched Kalento win and then Viper win back to back. Who are the 2 relevant players for you? Like, did you feel any extra pressure going into this series?
Yeah, I mean, I got the news that Viper won and Colento won, and I was kind of hoping that I could be through by the end of today, but obviously that's not the case. So I got even more nervous. I was already super nervous before the series, but I got even more nervous now, and I'm really happy that it worked out well.
What about your next match? Is that one looking good for you? Are you nervous about that one? And do you feel like you prepared aptly for that matchup, or did you kind of get got as far as the decks are concerned?
I think it's fine. I think this matchup is very even. I feel like when one of the two, the mage or the rogue, when they side deck, it gets slightly favored for them. But since we both have side decks that are dedicated to the other class, it stays around a very even matchup. And I feel like, as sad as it is, it comes down a lot to who gets the coin twice. Because I feel the side decks don't swing the matchup as much as the coin actually does swing the matchup. And that is kind of stupid, but that's how these two decks line up against each other.
I mean, I have nothing further for you. I just want to say well played. We have a busy weekend ahead of us, lots of more high-profile games to come. So good luck and best of luck in the potentially playoff-deciding game that is to come, Bunny.
Thank you.
He doesn't strike me as a get nervous kind of guy.
He mentioned specifically during Worlds that he was starting to get nervous towards the end of proceedings as well. And I think generally, if it's just like him in a game of Hearthstone, it doesn't really matter. It's when other things start to come in around that, things that can kind of like, you know, stodge up his brain, just really get it working overload. So things like playoff implications and all the maths that goes into that and all the different permutations, I can definitely see that something that can potentially get on top of him.
All right, well, we have a standings update after that one that we can take a look at here. Bring y'all up to speed. We've had 3 important must-win scenarios for Kolento, Bunnyhoppor, and Viper, and where the playoffs race are concerned. This is the final week of the regular season of Grandmasters, and playoffs are next week. All 3 of them have won their match. So, you know, status quo, right back to where we were at the start of the day.
Yes, and status quo favors Kolento and Bunnyhoppor, as you can see. Kolento because he just has that 1-game advantage on everyone. Bunnyhoppor because he has the tiebreaker advantage over Viper, having gone 2-0 against him in regular season.